The revolution in Whitestone has begun. With the citizens taking arms, our band of amateur mercenaries race to the castle to put an end to the Briarwood's reign before the sun sets, and all hope is lost. I need all of you to once again roll initiative, because it's time for Cartoon versus Campaign. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. Once again, be warned, if you haven't seen The Legend of Vox Machina, episodes 10 through 12, as well as its corresponding episodes from Campaign 1 of Critical Role, you might want to stop the video here, because there will be spoilers ahead. This is literally your last warning. Alright, no more stalling, let's jump right in.
The depths of the seat.
When we last left off, Vox Machina finds the next person on Percy's list, Dr. Anna Ripley, in a cell in the dungeon under Whitestone. In both versions of the story, the group agrees to let Dr. Ripley out so she can lead them to the Briarwoods, with one major difference. In the cartoon, Percy loses control, nearly kills Ripley, and has to be talked into freeing her by his sister, Cassandra. In the campaign, Cassandra is not there. Percy makes this decision on his own, with calm and logic, because at that very moment, Orthax is not influencing him, thanks to the fact that Pike blessed him when they first arrived in the castle. But both versions of this scene end exactly the same way, with Percy delivering another one of his signature lines. For the moment, you're one of the luckiest people in Whitestone, because you're at the bottom of my list. At this moment, the two stories momentarily diverge. In the cartoon, our heroes stay under the castle and remain on the path to find the underground cavern where the Briarwoods are trying to resurrect the Whispered One. In the campaign, our heroes go up to the castle looking for Cassandra. It is at this point in the story that Pike disappears, claiming that there's just too much evil there. Ashley just wasn't available for this session, so there you go. First, they head into Ripley's room so she can get her things. In the cartoon, this whole scene is quickly summarized while the party is still down in the dungeon. After farting around in Ripley's room for a few minutes, the party heads to Dr. Anders' study, where they believe Cassandra is being kept. As I said before, in the cartoon, this scene takes place much earlier, when most of Vox Machina assault Anders' house while Scanlan is busy being a one-man army. In this version, Percy enters Anders' study first, prompting the evil educator to slit Cassandra's throat. In the campaign, it is Vax who makes it into the room first, only to be met by the same results. Thankfully, our favorite rogue is fast and swift enough to make it into the room, reach Cassandra, and feed her a healing potion before the damage becomes too severe. Unfortunately for him, he does take a lot of damage in the process from Anders and his helmed horrors. In both versions, the rest of the party enters the room at this point and help fight off the helmed horrors while Keyleth finishes healing Cassandra's wound. In the campaign, Scanlan is present during this battle and is actually instrumental to our hero's victory, as he counterspells a few of Anders' spells, including his attempt to possess Grog. In the cartoon, however, Anders successfully possesses Grog, and the barbarian is a major obstacle during the battle. Anders eventually possesses everyone in the party except for Percy, who then breaks Anders' concentration on the spell with a really badass trick shot. In both versions, Percy kills Anders by putting the barrel of his pepper box in his mouth and delivering another one of his signature lines. "Yours is the face I saw when murder entered my heart," and then proceeds to blow the back of his head off. In the campaign, it is during this battle that Ripley makes her escape. A few party members try to chase her down, but their efforts are fruitless. While they're doing that, Keyleth heals Vax from all the wounds that he received while he was trying to save Cassandra, and it is at this point in the campaign that he professes his love for her. In the cartoon, this happens way back when they were surrounded by zombies at the Sun Tree.
You know I'm in love with you, right?
Wait, what? Now? I mean, this is like the worst time!
In the campaign, Keyleth does not get a chance to respond, as Vax immediately gets himself some sugar, baby. Unfortunately, the moment is ruined when Percy picks up a bundle of Vexalia's discarded arrows and starts whipping Vax with them for nearly getting his sister killed. The rogue apologizes, and Percy accepts his apology with the condition that next time he count to 10 before he enters the room. After exchanging apologies, the two of them leave, and together the party goes to Cassandra's room to retrieve her weapons. In the cartoon, this is summarized by her pulling a rapier out of a fallen warrior while our heroes are running from the zombies. Then something really weird happens in the campaign that I am so glad doesn't happen in the cartoon. Scanlan casts seeming on the entire party and makes all the boys, including Trinket, look like Percy and all the girls look like Cassandra, in order to confuse their enemies? Yeah, spoiler alert. The enemies, not confused at all. The audience, very confused. After this, both stories line up again. Our heroes make it to the mausoleum. In the cartoon, they fight zombies. In the campaign, they fight ghosts. This includes one of my favorite scenes from the campaign, where Scanlan defeats a ghost by insulting him to death. Yeah, that shit happened. Also, at this point, Pike reappears because there's less evil now? You know what? I love Ashley Johnson, so I'm not complaining. The party then makes it to the distillery, where in both versions, they are betrayed by Cassandra. The Briarwoods take Vax hostage and leave the rest of the party in an acid trap. In the cartoon, this scene is a fast-paced, eclectic sequence that sees Percy come up with a plan and the rest of the team execute it with perfect precision. In the campaign, this is a shit show that sees everybody in the party taking acid damage while they all try individual plans to get themselves out of the trap. Vex and Keyleth turn one of the acid spouts towards the barrier that's keeping them inside the trap and try to melt the rock face above it. While they're doing that, Pike and Scanlan dimension door out of the trap and look for the switch that turns it off. Pike finds the switch that opens the barrier, but the barrier can't open because of the damage that Keyleth and Vex did to it with the acid. Thankfully, at that moment, Scanlan finds the switch that turns off the acid, and our heroes, humbly, climb the barrier and go through the hole that Vex and Keyleth made. After a quick healing session, they head to their final battle with the Briarwoods. It's a miracle that nobody died.
Whispers at the ziggurat.
It is at this point in the cartoon that Ripley gets away, taking advantage of Percy abruptly losing control to Orthax again. In both versions, the battle starts the same way, with Percy giving in to his demon and shouting, "Silas!" In the cartoon, the Briarwoods have the upper hand until Keyleth tips the scales by connecting with the Sun Tree and casting Sunbeam. In the campaign, Vox Machina and the Briarwoods are pretty evenly matched at this point, especially since Pike is there. While in the cartoon, Vax is manipulated by Silas into fighting his own sister, this never happens in the campaign. Pike casts Greater Restoration on Vax, freeing him from Silas's control. Vax then pretends to still be charmed, and when the opportunity comes, he stabs Delilah with his poison dagger, only to get himself charmed again. In the cartoon, Cassandra fights Percy during the battle. In the campaign, Cassandra tries to fight Grog. Emphasis on the word try. Grog simply slams her into a wall with his warhammer, knocking the wind out of her, and then saying, "Oh yeah, I am known to take a lady's breath away." At this point, between Vex's holy arrows, Pike's divine energy, and Keyleth's sunbeam, Silas starts looking pretty rough, so Delilah tries to dimension door the both of them away. Unfortunately for her, Scanlan counterspells, and the two of them stay exactly where they are. In the cartoon, Scanlan simply silences her, rendering her momentarily unable to cast spells. Grog holds Silas in a full Nelson, while Keyleth finishes off the vampire with a huge sunbeam. In the campaign, Percy takes advantage of Silas's weakened state and fires multiple shots at him, one of them landing dead center and turning the vampire into mist. And then Keyleth says, "What's wrong, Silas? Afraid of a little gnome and druid?" Look, not all of them can be winners. And then proceeds to fire a sunbeam at Pike's shield, where it becomes irradiated with divine energy. Then the little gnome deflects his newly created holy sunbeam onto Silas, completely destroying him. So yeah, they did the thing. In the cartoon, Delilah escapes into the ziggurat and starts performing the ritual to resurrect the Whispered One. Vax picks the lock and the entire party fights the Necromancer together. In the campaign, Vex had taken a flying potion back when they were at the acid trap, so she uses her momentary flying powers to fly up to one of the windows of the ziggurat. She drops a rope so the other ones can follow her. She then goes in the ziggurat and starts firing arrows at Delilah, believing herself to be out of range. She was wrong. Delilah casts Finger of Death at Vex and hits her point blank. The ranger goes limp and falls to the ground, dead. In the cartoon, Delilah targets Vex with the Finger of Death, but Keyleth jumps in the way and takes the hit for her. Percy then disables Delilah with 2 shots from his pepper box. Her spell fails to resurrect the Whispered One, but summons an anti-magic sphere instead, that causes Pike to vanish right as she is about to heal Keyleth. And that's where the episode hits the big to be continued.
The darkness within.
In the campaign, Percy disables Delilah exactly the same way, but his second shot completely blows her arm off. Pike doesn't blink away immediately, but her powers don't seem to work in this room, and after a few failed attempts by the different party members to revive Vex'ahlia, they realize that magic doesn't work in this room altogether, so they spend the next series of ridiculously tense rounds trying to get Vex'ahlia out of the building and far away from the anti-magic field so they can revive her. Thankfully, in the process of this, Laura Bailey succeeded enough death saves to stabilize Vex'ahlia. In the cartoon, the party carries Keyleth all the way back to the distillery, where Vax and Scanlan revive her just in time. The big question is, why did they switch Vex and Keyleth during this moment? I believe that it's because Keyleth and Pike are the heart and conscience of the team, and without them, Orthax can more easily corrupt Percy. In the campaign, Keyleth stays behind to inspect the anti-magic sphere and nearly loses her entire arm in the process, and it is only by the grace of a really good roll from Marisha Ray that Keyleth didn't spend the rest of the campaign as a lefty. After not being able to discern anything from her investigation, she gives up and rejoins the party. In the campaign, Pike does blink out momentarily during this time, but then blinks back in the moment they get far enough away from the anti-magic sphere. In the cartoon, Pike stays gone after feeling the effects of the sphere. In the campaign, Grog picks up Delilah and everybody together head towards the distillery. This is when Percy starts to lose control and Orthax reveals himself in his corporeal form. Then, a traditional Dungeons & Dragons boss battle begins with the party taking on Orthax. In the cartoon, this sequence is incredible, showing Percy's inner struggle as well as the peril that the rest of the party is in. This isn't just the best sequence in the show, but one of the best sequences you'll ever see in any animated production. The inner struggle concludes when Percy chooses to shoot himself through the hand instead of shooting Delilah. Cassandra then kills the Necromancer by stabbing her through the neck, and they dispose of her body by dumping it into the acid. In the campaign, Grog eventually knocks down Orthax's corporeal form. While he's down there, Trinket comes up, clamps his huge bear jaw around his head, and rips his head off. That's 2 major villains that the bear defeats. Then, Cassandra does kill Delilah, but she does so by stabbing her through the sternum, after which they all dispose of her body in the exact same way as the cartoon. In both versions, Scanlan gets the pepper box away from Percy and throws it in the acid, effectively killing Orthax.
Me to make a note!
And if you're wondering, yes, Sam Riegel had no idea that would work.
Hey, how'd you know that demon was still in there?
Total guess.
In both versions, the party reconvenes with Keeper Yennon and the Whitestone citizens at the Sun Tree. At this point in the campaign, Duke Vedmeyer is brought forward to be sentenced, along with his wife, the Countess Jasna Graydon. Now, if you're wondering, this is the first and only time that she appears in the campaign. So, Vax offers to let them live, as long as they help rebuild the city. Vedmeyer agrees. His wife, not so much. She responds by spitting at them. Grog responds by chopping her head off with his great axe. Damn. So yeah, in this version, Vedmeyer lives. He pays for his crimes with lots and lots of jail time and lots of community service. In both versions, Vax and Keyleth have an awkward conversation about their feelings, which is way more hilarious in the campaign, as the rest of the cast sits there covering their faces in discomfort.
This is awkward.
In the cartoon, Keyleth then creates a portal back to Tal'Dorei, using the greater magic from the Sun Tree. In the campaign, Vox Machina agrees to stay in Whitestone and celebrate Winter's Crest with the citizens, with the condition that Keeper Yennon write a letter to Sovereign Uriel detailing everything that happened and the Briarwood's true nature. And thus, the Briarwood arc ends, with our heroes having a feast under the Sun Tree. In the cartoon, we also get an epilogue showing our heroes attending the castle for a special announcement, when suddenly they are attacked by the Chroma Conclave, an order of powerful dragons there to get revenge on the ones that killed their brother, Brimscythe. And that's where season 1 ends. So, in true Critical Role tradition, I will end this with a speech in the style of Matt Mercer. May it be by the strength of Grog, by the virtue of Pike, by the marksmanship of Vexalia, by the swiftness of Vax'ildan, by the keen mind of Percival, by the heart and wonder of Keyleth, by the lust for life of Scanlan. May their deeds inspire generations to come, and may all of them tell of the legend of Vox Machina. Thank you for watching, and don't fret, it's almost Thursday.